The shit that I hate the most, this is what I crack my day with.
If you disturb me with a lot of meetings, that day is fucked, essentially, because I have a few hours right before daily to manage some shit which didn't work yesterday before I ended my day.
We have this tradition within our company, the Teach Friday. We have a 30-minute call, which we call like a coffee break, and everybody brings a coffee. And we're talking about anything but work, things like that. And I'm thinking, fuck, the house is burning. What the hell are you talking about, lady?
This motherfucker seen the message, he didn't reply, he didn't do shit. I'm gonna blame him.
I was super nice to you. I was answering late messages. I was doing this. I was over delivering. And like, why are you disappointing me?
Is a lot of the times engineers tend to believe managers are stupid. And a lot of them are.
The more the engineer fantasizes about the actual implementation, the more clarity he has over what he has to do.
The sooner you get used to things being tough, then this becomes normal. And you get to use to this normality. Obviously, you have a goal in mind. You want to escape the matrix. You want to escape this idea of slavery.
At the end of the day, it all comes to money, I guess.
Hello and welcome everyone to yet another episode of VUnstaged with yet another very special guest. It's somebody I know from far away, but somebody I am meeting for the first time today. So it's my pleasure to meet you. So my question, and this is what I ask everybody who comes on the show, if you can tell us your name, what do you do for a living? And I ask this everyone, how did you get into tech? How did you get into this beautiful industry that we all love?
Hey everyone, Steve, thank you for the invitation. Thanks for having me here. I'm Terentie. I'm a project manager, aka delivery manager, aka program manager. I've been in IT project management for I don't know how much, not much, I guess, the last 7, 6, 8 years, something like that. Overall project management, I think more than that, more than a decade, maybe 15 years, maybe 14 years. And grabbing the bull by the horns, I switched to tech, as I've mentioned, 6, 7 years ago. Basically due to financial incentives.
It's a good incentive.
Well, it's a honest one, I guess.
Yeah.
I've been working at that time at a state agency. I worked there for about 1 year and something as sort of like in the middle management. I had about 6 divisions to management, one of which was IT at that time. And I was responsible for a project that should have merged a couple of databases of different governmental structures in one, and it was always slipping the deadline. And some of the guys mentioned like, look, we're gonna switch to agile methodology. We're gonna catch up the deadlines. And I was like, the fuck are you talking about, dude? And I started to read about agile methodologies, and it kind of, to me at that time, it was basically, well, that's not the best thing to say, but it seemed as a waterfall, but just in iterations. So
yeah, it's like a fancy term.
I guess so, but it had some sort of sense, and it wasn't so difficult to grasp. So then I started to check out like, how much are the guys on the market making, and I noticed that basically the income is twice as much as I was gaining at that time. So I decided like, maybe kind of like makes sense to switch it into IT, into tech.
Yep.
And I think I was among like the last Mohicans that sort of like made it. Before the lift doors sort of like
you're not the classical project managers, because I've checked your history a little bit, and typically you see like how do you like get project managers in IT companies? Typically there's some kind of university degree, like they finished it, and for some reason they decided not to pursue tech. They decided to manage it instead. Like you see girls doing this, they might go into like QA and stuff, and then they might shift towards management. And you see a lot of this as in like they come from like let's call it an educational / academia background. In your case, you're so varied, and you're so like you went through a bunch of things before you got into IT project management.
I get where's that coming from, but like for me, it was like management all the time, because even if you'd go back to the volunteering days, NGOs, things like that, which I think in the background sort of like covered about 13 years of my background. I was doing like projects and like working with international organizations and non-governmental organizations, but still I was doing management, like even project writing, project implementation, all of that, project charters, financial reporting. That was pure project management, but in like the classic way of project management, the waterfall way
Yeah.
of doing, the linear way, right, of doing things. So the only, I guess, only missing bit of the puzzle at that time was this agile. At that time, the fancy agile word, which kind of like I caught up pretty
Yeah, we
fast.
have like fancy words for everything in the IT industry.
You know, but it's slightly different. I mean, like it's slightly different, but still, if you know sort of like the baseline, or you know like the core of your
Yep, yeah.
discipline, it makes sense to switch to, I don't know, a different syntaxes, a different framework. I mean, like if you know
It's
the
kind
core,
of the same, yeah.
if
It
you know
translates
vanilla.
well.
If you know vanilla, then it's kind of like the framework is still an effort, but it's manageable, I guess. So for me, even though the background could seem a little bit volatile, right?
Yeah.
Because I mean, like I was working even in like academia, like I worked a couple of years as a lecturer, but still it was like a lecturer of organizational management, you know. So like management was always in the shadows. So to me, it kind of like it all sort
It
of
felt natural.
absolutely. So I just like, to me, that was another facet, right, of the same management discipline.
Yeah.
This time in tech. And as I've mentioned, my incentive was purely opportunistic at the time, and I was quite lucky, to be honest, assessing the way that the market evolved, right? Because we had the pandemia, now we have the recession, then again recession, like this uncertainty, so to say. So I think I was quite lucky, because at that time when I switched to tech, I've been hearing stories as like people from different sort of domenia switching to tech, which today
there was a peak. Let's call it before the AI boom / pandemic. Like, I don't know, I would call it before 2021. Like 2021 was like the highest peak. Ever since 2021, the whole shit went down.
Yeah, I guess so.
Crisis after crisis.
So at that time, I mean, I've been hearing wild stories of people from, I don't know, even like security companies making it into management, into IT project management, because they were like sort of like disciplined military army, and they were looking exactly for this kind of guy or for this kind of lady. I mean, like I heard wild switching stories, which I guarantee aren't a possibility nowadays, due to the fact that we have.
No, this is fucking brutal. Let's be honest. Like, if you watch HR managers, any kind of HR department on LinkedIn, if you watch what the fuck is the requirements and how they just dispose people left and right, because there's so many of them and there's so little employers, I would rather say it's even less of them than it was in 2021. It's just crazy. And yeah, of course, it's nice to have that beautiful story on paper, but how often does it happen nowadays when you have a bunch of seniors struggling to actually get jobs?
Yeah, that is true. And I presume, I mean, like successful stories which I've heard of HRs or recruiters finding exactly people fit for their position without those kind of like wild switching stories are the guys which probably had also a background in tech, you know.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, because you're not the classical project manager when it comes to IT companies. Like, I would say those are like grew up for that positions. Like you, like I just checked your history.
Yeah.
I was gonna plan on asking more on that.
Feel free.
But yeah, I was checking your history. I'm like, this is not your fucking classical project manager, where they were raised in the university. They were taught what, because you even have courses in the university. Like if you pursue a software engineering degree, you even have courses on project management.
Yeah, the last couple of years.
Yeah, and they're like, okay, I'm gonna pursue this because it kind of seems easy. I'm kind of suit for this and whatnot. And a lot of people do it that way. Whereas in your case, you have like, I believe, a military background. I was curious to ask you, like, because you had this on your like profile that you attended.
The Ministry of Domestic Affairs.
Yeah.
So I, when it comes to academia, I sort of like pursued two branches, so to say. So one of which was economics. So I did my undergrad in finance, then I pursued a master's degree in international business. But there was always a conflict in the background between like sort of three passions of mine, because when I was in the Lyceum, I was doing like debate club and stuff like that. So, and I was passionate of history, and I thought like maybe I should become a lawyer, but then like maybe I should become a businessman. And I decided to take in parallel another sort of say academic branch, which was law. At that time, law at the Academy of Domestic Affairs. Now it's called like Academy of Stefan the Great.
Yeah, people usually go there for like military degrees and whatnot.
There are two opportunities. So one of which is sort of like to translate it would be something like security and public order. So this is like traditional police stuff that you go to. And the other sort of like big discipline is law.
Yeah.
And from law, you can go to the Ministry of Internal Affairs, you can go to the prosecutor's office, you can go to the Ministry of Justice, you can be a lawyer, you can choose any law-related career. And actually, the background of law at that particular educational institution is rather good. So this is why I sort of like decided to go there and study. So that was like my second branch, which I don't know, never kind of like materialized at the end of the day.
But like, the way that I've experienced a lot of things on my own, like I was never into IT and stuff like that. Like I even pursued at like high school, I even went the humanistic profile. Like I was fucking supposed to, in theory, study like math, physics, and like a bunch of computer science and whatnot. And I cannot say nowadays that the fact that I went humanistic didn't really benefit me, because like I got a good hang of languages and shit. So it kind of played well into my career.
Yeah, I'm a humanitarian as well. The teachers in my lyceum were saying that basically it's the same stuff, but you're gonna learn it twice as fast because they're not gonna change the curricula for you. But I mean, like, well, that's a hyperbole, I guess, a little bit of a exaggeration. But I perceive myself as a humanitarian as well. The thing is that, like, when I was young, I was fond of computers at that time, because like it was pretty simple. You always get to assemble your computer, play with the hard disk, switch the jumpers from master to slave, go with the hard disk to your neighbor.
It doesn't sound simple to most people.
I mean, like, you didn't have fast speed internet at that time, so you just like go neighbor to neighbor, and just in order to make like your media library with the hundreds of MP3s and stuff like that. I mean, I remember the old dial-up times where you would where you'd spend a couple of hours just to download the pure MP3 song, just to be the first one in school to have it. So I
send it over Bluetooth and stuff.
Bluetooth as well, and we sort of like, I don't know, grasped it from the surroundings, being the first piloting sort of like tech savvy generation, right? Because I mean, I presume most of the people from our age were the kind of guys that would go to the, I don't know, neighbor's granny to reinstall a pirated copy of Windows XP.
The beauty of Eastern Europeans, I guess, and I was watching this like in Lex Friedman's podcast with Pavel Durov. He was saying like the beauty of us like Eastern Europeans is because of the fact that we didn't have as many like let's call it computers, and this modern age we live in was a lot scarce for us. We didn't have them as often. We were more prone to innovation and creativity, and in a way abundance is a negative factor, and because we didn't have abundance of that shit, it made us ingenious and creative in many ways, like try to find hacks and stuff like that, which is really interesting.
Yeah, I think most of it was sort of like pirated stuff. My PC box was never open. I would just like plug and unplug the hard drive as a flash drive. I mean, I always had stuff to do with it, and obviously a lot of pirated software. And then I was fond of, I think when I was 15 or 16, I was very fond of MMORPGs. And I kind of like wasted several years on
You
them.
sound like my first guest.
Yeah, I wasted a lot of time on that. And this is the thing which when I was switching from the state agency to my first tech employer, they're usually kind of skeptical because you don't have a tech background. So I needed to, I don't know,
you need to have like some kind of portfolio.
Yeah, an argument, I guess. And I made at that time an intention letter where I was describing this part of the story that I was fond of MMORPGs, and then I started to look for hacks, and then I was kind of like playing with. I was sniffing the traffic, and then I noticed that it's a 6-digit, and then I was injecting back that hex code just to sort of like attempt and crack the server. I failed. Then ultimately I had the incentive to sort of like make a couple of phishing pages just to I don't know.
I invited myself to your interview.
Yeah.
Type of thing.
A couple of phishing pages as like fake fronts for that particular server. Just, I don't know, get another account, or like that's basically stealing, right? But that was the incentive for me to go and make my first web design course, which at that time I was, I think, in the 11th grade. It was HTML, CSS, and Illustrator. That was the suit. That was the
You
suit
had
for.
Illustrator back then?
Yeah, we did. We
Interesting.
did. And I don't remember the name of that particular organization, but they were even like accredited by the Ministry of Education. So they would even give you a diploma that you are like a certified
Like Coral Draw and shit?
CorelDRAW, Illustrator, Photoshop, HTML, and CSS. That was sort of
Interesting.
like the.
Interesting.
Oh, Dreamweaver. Yeah,
Yeah,
Dreamweaver.
Dreamweaver was my first IDE basically. It's also from Adobe.
Yeah, that was the framework that I basically used to sort of like.
Yeah, I remember the times when like people were coding in Notepad++, then Sublime came along, and that was like the king doing things in Dreamweaver. Having like we had IntelliSense even back then, which is like auto completion and stuff like that.
Absolutely, but it was still kind of like buggy, and you would.
Yeah, true,
it was
true.
preferred that you would know CSS to sort of like adjust and make everything like pixel perfect.
Yeah.
But I mean, it worked for a couple of phishing pages. I mean, it did the job done. So that was my first sort of like exposure and experience into being a little bit more tech savvy than others at the age of, I don't know, 16, 17. And I wanted to go initially to cybernetics and economical informatics, if I would translate it word by word, to Academy of Economic Sciences, which I made it into. But that was a challenge at that time in my generation. I'm pretty confident at this point in time it's much better. But
it
at
wasn't
that time,
enough information. Like we
at
live
that
in
time, it
such
was,
an era of information
and
nowadays.
moreover, it was, I think, it was cybernetics in English, I think. So I remember my first one of my first lessons where like the lecturer was saying like, look guys, we're a progressive faculty, blah blah blah, so we're gonna send you this by email, you're gonna get an account, we're gonna like do the testing online. And one of the guys like from the back of the classroom was like, I have a question. Like, yeah, sure, go on. Like, what's an email? But the guy originally, like authentically was asking like, what's an email? I'm like, shit, this is not going to be fun at all. I mean, like, we're going to go through basic stuff. And I said, like, okay, let's go with plan B. Because back in, I think that was the first year when you would go to undergrad, that they would give you the option to apply for 3 faculties, right?
Yeah.
So I'd say, like, no, fuck IT, I'm going to go to finance, right? So then, like, eventually I've graduated finances, like my main.
How many degrees you have?
Background.
Because you like through your.
I have rushed a little bit. I think I've rushed. I've always rushed. Like 6 years at the age of 6 to school, at the age of 16 to the university, and like I was always the youngest among my peers at that time.
Yeah, people think they have time.
And like I was always rushing, and there was this stupid thing to do a PhD while I was under 30. So I think at 27 or 28, something like that, I did a PhD in criminology, which is sort of like, again, a humanitarian, something like closer to law, but it's still like something between law and social sciences.
Does your degree?
That's the highest degree.
Does your degree in like let's say, does your degree in law, and now you mentioned criminology, help at all at your day-to-day job as a PM?
No, I don't think so. No,
like,
I don't think so.
I don't know, trying to read people and stuff.
That comes with experience. That comes with the amount of interactions. Obviously, what helped me, like not to read, I mean, but to sort of like better understand people and better find ways to connect to somebody, and I don't know, the thing that they call emotional intelligence, right?
Yeah, everybody talks about that.
I think that's just the amount of hands that you play, just like in poker. The more you play, the more comfortable you feel, So I was lucky due to all of those volunteering activities and NGOs to work a lot with young people.
Right.
And then I was lucky as a lecturer, again, to work with a lot of young people. And then being lucky to be in leadership positions, as in management, for like manager for this team, manager for that team, you get a lot of end-to-end stories.
I wouldn't say like being a manager is necessarily a luck position, because you need to have the skills to be like the manager and stuff.
Yeah, I'm just trying to be grateful, for whatever.
You're just trying to be humble and stuff. Yeah.
For whatever I have, but I mean, like this flux of people, I think, is what played the key role in actually maybe sometimes being a little bit, having an edge in understanding people, but it doesn't always work. I mean, like, people are lottery, there's There's even an old anecdote about a guy which went to the Tibetan mountains to spend, I don't know, 20 years with a priest, because that priest knew the 99 types of personality. You master them all, and you're like the toughest guy on the planet. He spent 20 years over there. He says, like, my child, now you have the time, like you have the opportunity to leave this temple. He leaves the temple, I don't know, a couple of seconds here or there. He doesn't share something with the guy. They have a conflict, and he punches him in the face. And he goes back running. He goes back running to the priest, and he's like, "Master, sensei, like you have told me, I've grasped everything. 20 years, 99 types of personality. What the fuck?" And he's like, "Well, probably that's the 100th. So,
Yeah.
like, it's a lottery. It's a lottery. You have generations, you have cultures,
But
you have a
it's
lot of
it's
stuff.
it's a good edge though, because if you take the classical PM, typically they gain their experience as they become a project manager and they start managing actual people, actual projects, actual stakeholders, and whatnot. You like
I
you
would
messed your hands dirty with a lot of people first, and then you dive into project. It just feels natural to deal with people.
I always advise parents that have, I don't know, teenagers, to actually encourage them to expose to any type of leadership activities. Like, I don't know, organizing an event at high school, like anything, being the
Right.
class leader, whatever, that would give them this exposure. I mean, it helps a lot in life. It helps a lot. And I think my first job was when I was 15, and I was working in a call center. We were doing like
15.
sales, 15,
Yeah,
15 and
yeah.
a half. I said, like, generally, I'm not like, to be honest, I'm not very happy that I was always rushing through life. I don't know why it's happening, but I guess it's
It's a
so
good. I wouldn't say it's a bad thing, because
you lose a lot,
yeah,
Steve.
but at the same time, what people tend to make a mistake on is they think they have time, and they end up being 25, as that popular saying, like most people die at 25, they just wait to be buried at 60.
Absolutely, but
So
that's another extreme.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
another
I mean,
extreme.
you need to enjoy life, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, like, this is also the years that you need to show yourself. You need to prove yourself to the world in a way, especially as a man.
Agree. I mean, like, my frustration comes with the fact that even though I have rushed through life, and you've asked about, like, did you give you an age? I remember one time when I was working at, like, when I was hired in my first sort of like big local corporation over here. I mean, like, they really paid a lot of attention to that PhD and like to those master's degrees and
Right.
things like that, because it was the generation where a lot of managers in fintech were switching from like banking, finance, and this guy has a finance degree, and stuff like that. He already worked in an IT company prior to us, like for, I think it was 8 or 9 months in my first tech position, and then I was hunted by that fintech sort of like local corporation. And to them, it like it made it was important,
Right.
because it gave them an edge when it came to outsourcing and selling the resources to the client. It seems like,
Like the
that's a
more
solid,
accolades you have, yeah,
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 that's a solid profile.
yeah,
You
yeah,
look like a dog at a beauty contest, with a lot of medals, with a lot
yeah,
of medals. So
yeah.
that's when it sort of like, I understood that, it gives you a plus. But in general, no, I think that the edge, the advantage of understanding people comes with time. Therefore, I encourage the parents or the teenagers to like get this exposure ASAP.
You mentioned this like rush for things and doing things faster. Do you regret anything that you've went like and done things faster?
I mean, I wouldn't say necessarily that I regret it, but if I would have had the chance to go back in the past and relive it, probably I wouldn't rush so much. I would just stay there and
Enjoy
enjoy
life a
the
little bit
moment,
more?
maybe like party a little bit more, maybe, because at the end of the day, you have a solid profile, but you're still young, and there's this bit of ageism, right? So, I mean, I'm gonna guarantee you, if they have a 30-year-old with an awesome profile, I don't know, 2 master's degrees, PhD, 15 years in management, and they have a guy which is 45,
Right.
but he's like 7 years in IT, and he's like solid, they were gonna go for the 45. I mean, there's like, I was often under the impression that I'm
Is that the case though?
disadvantaged.
Like in the
I was often, especially in the last couple of years, when I was like eager to go more into like senior positions, that there's a glass ceiling, which is sort of like, look, dude, you still look young, like, fuck off.
it's kind of the same with software developers. Like HRs typically, they You know how they measure experience? It's not even like what you've done. It's not about portfolio, it's about years.
Years.
Yeah. So for developers, experience is measured in years. So you could be like a dumbass who spends 10 years in the same company doing the same shit over and over again, not learning anything new. If you were to be kicked out, you're a nobody and you won't be able to be hired again. And you say this, and this is like something new, at least for me, because typically you get hit with, you don't have this many years. And a lot of the times it's even stupid. Like a technology just came out, it has like 2 years on the market, and they're like minimum 5 years or whatever, which is stupid. And you mentioned the fact that like like this rule doesn't apply to managers, you're saying?
No, it does apply.
No, in a sense that years of experience not necessarily means it's better than actually somebody who's older.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah. So
yeah.
is it like, I don't know, I guess tied down to like the more you grow up, the more or the better your judgment is as a person?
Personally, in my bubble, like in whatever I experienced subjectively, I mean, they would always bet on like the guy that is sort of like oldest.
Yeah,
You know,
but what about portfolio though?
it's still, you know, a people's discipline, right?
Right.
There's a lot of like there's this fancy thing of when you would like to sort of like avoid the idea of double standards and like, I don't know, cynism and things like you as a manager you're being cynical, right, and things like that, or
I mean, ideally, and I tend to see this with especially engineers, ideally, when you have A players, you want to have even more A players hired. What tends to happen is A players hire B players and C players because they're easier to manage. In a way, it provides some kind of job security. And over time, mediocrity in that company tends to grow to the point where it's actually detrimental, and it leads to the failure. So to see that here, it's also like as a company, you probably want to hire somebody who's better than you because they'll bring better value, and better meaning, I guess, a richer portfolio, many more years in many more companies and whatnot.
a good way to say that it's a people's discipline and it has sort of like maybe double standards, you know. A good way to say it is like management is a situational discipline, right? So
Right.
so it all depends on the situation, it all depends on but talking about mediocrity, an example which sort of like supports your idea would be the back to office period. If you remember, I think
Yeah, after COVID.
1.5 years ago, they've gradually being inspired by the
Elon Musk, Wave, and shit.
yeah, being inspired by the Western tradition, sort of like, okay, Apple is going back to office, Amazon is going back to office. We need to get now the people back to office ASAP, and they have started to slowly, you know, change the culture. What I noticed, the guys that were good, the
Right.
guys that
Right.
were good, they continued to work from home. I'd say in about
You
70,
mean engineers?
the engineers that
Yeah.
were good, they were the guys that like, look, fuck off, I'm gonna stay and work from home. Like 70% of them, whether said like, take it or leave it, the like, and out of those 70%, another part of people just left for a different employer or like for like freelance and stuff like that. What I noticed, the guys that were coming into the office were actually the low performers because A, they were scared the most, right?
Right.
B, they're pretty confident that the chances are low that they would find, you know, another employer. So then, no problem. I'm wasting time at home. Let me go and waste time at the office. I was seeing people that were like literally sleeping at the work desk at 4 o'clock. They were waiting for like 5 p.m. just to go and leave the
Fucking
office.
hate office, especially
And
like you go to the center, you have to fucking look for a parking lot. Like you just waste so much time. And when I see companies insisting on that, I'm just like refusing that immediate. Like hybrid slash going to the office is such a waste.
so I can tell you one thing for sure. Unfortunately, the office works. I mean, like if
You
we
can
would have
incentivize people. I do
it
agree.
it unfortunately the sad part is that the office works. It like as like as an average per room, it will increase the productivity. But there are those special cases of like super disciplined and organized people. They have a place, I don't know, for gaming, a place for work. Everything is set up. They know what to do. They know how to perform. They excel in what they do, and they don't want to waste like 40 minutes in a traffic jam and then 40 minutes in a traffic jam to get back home, and that's like almost 2 hours a day. It's like 10 hours a week, and you're working another day per week as a taxi driver. Why the fuck do I need that? Yeah, right.
Correct. Yeah, it's like a part-time taxi driver.
Yeah, but then to be totally honest with you, I mean, like, I'm a manager, and if, like, for example, at this point in time I'm managing a couple of teams, most of them are distributed, but what I noticed in one of my teams, I'm starting to have a lot of people from Moldova,
Yeah.
and I'm having this idea in the back of my mind that if it's going to be a predominant part of people from Moldova,
Right.
I have this idea of like, look, let's go to the office at least for 1-2 days a week, even though I hate the office, right? But I
Yeah,
would
but
give it a try.
communication's an issue typically, especially if you have distributed. If like if you add time zone into consideration, it gets even worse because you have, like, let's say you have some bureaucracy in the place. You're doing like code reviews, stuff needs to be approved before it gets into certain environments, before it gets tested and all and whatnot. You add in the time zone, you add in the communication issue before people reply. It's just a fucking chaos. Like, it takes days to get something done. Whereas if people were to be in the office, or at least in some kind of cohesive environment where stuff gets done faster because of efficient communication, a lot of the times it comes down to communication, I would say.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely, it does. It depends on the seniority level, not as a not from the professional point of view, but rather than from the personal point of view. I mean,
Right.
I'm sorry again for saying this, but probably the younger, the more likely for me to see that person at the office, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But older guys, I mean, like, they're already, I mean, like, they went through military, they know what's expected, what to do, when to deliver, or what's the reasonable amount of time to leave
Yeah,
for
they have
synchronous
an
communication.
efficiency framework in mind, and they're like, I want to, like, if it's asked of me, I need to deliver this. How about I improve the pipeline so very good that it doesn't matter when I deliver it, as long as I do it.
So
So my own environment, my own timing, my own everything. I like flexibility. Yeah.
I totally get it. I mean, like, I would
Because if you remove this aspect of flexibility, in translation, what actually means is you are rewarding. You're not rewarding, let's say, actual deliverables. You're rewarding time spent on them, which is false. It's a false equivalent of actual deliverables, because you can do something really fast, and then the manager is going to say, "Oh, there's this next thing that you need to pick up in line." Or you can actually manage your time properly and do it as you see fit, as long as it falls into the deadline which was agreed between all the parties.
No, I totally support that. I mean, I totally get it. In my ideal, so to say, Orwellian or like dystopian, utopian world, if I were a corporation, I'd probably say, like, look, let's do the first 3 months at the office, and then we're gonna go gradually working from
You
home.
mean like in a startup setup?
I mean, like, in my fantasy, right? What would I do? I
Right.
would I would have the guy or the lady work for the first 3 months at office. Then we would like gradually go to working from home, as in like hybrid, and then from home. And then I would set up this rule: you fuck up one time, you go back to the office for 2 weeks. You fuck up a second time, you go back to the office for a couple of months. You fuck up the third time, you're working strictly from the office.
Go into the hole.
Yeah. But I mean, like, I don't know how friendly of an idea is this, but like
It makes a lot of
in
sense for startups, and like I've seen a lot of startups which I was part of, because of this nature of fully distributed teams and fully remote teams. They tend to fail a lot because the communication is broken. And if you were to, let's say, you have a startup, you want as much cohesiveness, as much efficiency in communication and delivery. You, let's say, bring them together for 3 months, or whatever, let's say half a year. You have some kind of MVP of a product, and then from that point on, you give them a more of a chill time. So now we're in the, let's say, support phase. We're adding things, obviously, but everybody knows how this thing works. Everybody's on board with the roadmap, with expectations, with deadlines, with what the client wants, and more or less, like, you also build trust when you like go into the office, which is what we're missing nowadays with fully remote jobs, and people showing up in meetings, turn off the camera. They only speak when they have to. and they don't even care what the other person has to say, is we're missing this bond and connection with others.
I can give you another example. Recently, I have a new. So I'm working in an outsourcing IT company, corporation, whatever. And as a delivery manager, you have a portfolio of clients that you're managing. So I have this new customer since April. It's a big multinational corporation, and they're so friendly, and they're always trying to inspire us with their culture. But I mean, like I'm always saying, like, we are not white people, allegorically, like we are not white people, so this is for them. I mean, like, we have to hustle.
Right.
And that lady, she was so nice, and she said, like, look, I have a new team member which is onboarding, and he's going to be like my proxy product owner, and I would really love the team to get to know him. So we have this tradition within our company that each Friday we have a 30-minute call, which we call like a coffee break, and everybody brings a coffee, and we're talking about anything but work, things like that. And I'm thinking, fuck, the house is burning, what the hell are you talking about, lady? And at the same time, I was sort of like afraid to push this idea to a couple of the team members, which are very pedantic when it comes to disturbing them. I mean, like,
Yeah.
let's have the calls. I've answered all the questions. Cool, fuck off. Now I'm going to go and work. I want to have
because nobody cares. You have this cocktail effect where people don't give a shit unless you mention their names, something they're doing, or something that concerns them.
Yeah, so like that person was eager to get as much focus time as he needed, and I was like, look, my friend, we have to make this, because like she's insisting and I feel uncomfortable. And like, he was like, well, she was nice to us, right? Let's be nice to her. Let's join that fucking call, on Friday. Let's join that fucking call on Friday morning. And we were in that call, and like everybody obviously turns their cameras on, and we're talking. I'm like, hey, I'm Terentie, I'm 36, I have a small daughter, blah, blah, blah. I do kickboxing, I do this. And then, everybody picks up their turn, and I get to find out a lot of interesting stuff about my own team,
Yeah.
And I don't like to say it, but it actually improved the relationship within my team. That fucking call improved the relationship within my team. It was like an icebreaker.
I remember the same shit when I was into like a business trip, because we were a fully distributed remote team. Eventually, we gather once, 3 months or so, and they invited this, the psychologist and whatnot. And he started like playing several games with us, like games to force us into like bonding and connecting with each other and finding out more. And the games were stupid. Like at first you're like, fuck am I doing here? Like writing down shit and trying to like come up with ideas which are not work related and whatnot. But then over time you find these surprisingly weird but interesting things about the other person, which in a way connects with them. I don't know. It's weird how humans interact.
Obviously, definitely, but that particular experience was, I think, the icebreaker that I was missing for the first couple of months, and suddenly I had more communication within the team, because everybody was so like, you mentioned earlier about the synchronous communication, and I have nothing against it under one freaking condition, and that condition is you're done. You pass the ball over to the next one. I mean, like, you don't do surprises meaning, like, for example, the story or like the particular item is ready for code review,
Right.
and you don't purely, I don't know, change the status in Trello or in Jira, and then at the next daily stand up, like in 24 hours, you say like, hey Steve, but I changed the status, like, why haven't you checked it?
That is so fucking like,
And that's a surprise.
I know a particular guy who does that. He's like, when I'm doing something, I don't rely on people having notifications enabled.
Exactly.
I don't rely on them if they have it enabled to have read them or paid attention to. So I just DM them, hey, I've done this. Can you have a look?
Yeah, you just
that fucking guy
ball.
And even worse, he does that right before the daily begins.
Mm.
And then all of the sudden, it's a responsibility to review some shit. And you didn't know that it was on you until like 5 minutes ago.
I mean, like, for example, if you plan your day at the end of the day, like, let's imagine that you plan Tuesday on Monday afternoon, yeah, and they give you a surprise on the daily stand-up.
I hate being like, here's the thing, and I wanted to actually touch on that since you mentioned it. Like, I hate, and I think I speak for all developers when I say this, I hate being disturbed after daily, or let's say after daily is even acceptable, but after lunch, that is like my flow state,
Mm.
my focus time. If you disturb me with a lot of meetings, that day's fucked essentially, because I have a few hours right before daily to manage some shit which didn't work yesterday before I ended my day. And I don't know, adjust all the statuses so that the managers look happy inside Jira. And then I have the time which comes after lunch to focus until the end of the day.
I
Not to
res-
mention context switching, answering a bunch of DMs and whatnot. And if you schedule a bunch of calls, then the whole day is fucked because you have to context switch here and there, here and there, here and there. And what ends up happening is you've kind of fucked up your day. You wasted the time, but you can't really, let's say, articulate what exactly intangibles you've done at the end of the day.
Yeah, I agree, and I totally respect that with a couple of conditions again. So when
Like I'm
it
talking
comes,
about a normal day. Like there's not like
no,
a
no, no, I get
hot
it.
release, like I don't know,
Yeah, yeah,
some demo and shit. Like those are exceptions. I'm talking regular fucking days when people mind their own business.
I get it. I
Yeah.
get it. I'm gonna cover it from the other side of the team lead or the project manager. So when it comes to asynchronous communication, as I've mentioned, under one condition, pass the ball. So you're done. You mentioned like, hey, could you please review? Hey, could you please test? Hey, this is ready for, I don't know, sit, whatever. So in that case, asynchronous sort of like works
Right.
in my world. And when it comes to the schedule, I'm a different type of person. I mean, like I usually excel in the first half of the day. So like my flow state is right after I wake up. Ideally I wouldn't waste time on breakfast, but okay, I do a smoothie, whatever, protein shake,
Yeah. Yeah.
and like I crack on the toughest task on like whatever accounting I have to do, reporting, like the shit that I hate the most. This is what I crack my day with, ideally. And I can keep this flow state, say like until 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock with a couple of pauses. But like my brain is in concentration, focus, flow, intellectual tasks in the first half of the day, acknowledging the fact that there are people that have the flow state, say, in the second half of the day, right? Which is also totally fair. I don't always have the luxury of protecting my focus time, because usually in the morning people, they want to meet, they want to talk, they want to
Right.
solve
Right.
fast. So, I have a couple of workarounds to just like diminish the interference of context switching and sort of like preserve where I left before the call. This is how I manage it. But ideally, I would like ideally my type of personality, I would go for like focus time in the morning, and then when my brain is totally useless, I would go to calls and note taking, right? For some people it's the other way around. They could do some calls and note taking. In terms of
It very
disturbing,
much depends on the demand. Like at what time during the day the demand is the highest.
yeah,
For me, the reason I'm doing it this way, and I believe a lot of developers, because it gets quieter as the day passes. So the more you approach the end of the day, the evening, the more quiet it gets in terms of notifications, spamming, and all that stuff. So for me, it's like the whole world just calms down. It's like the state after the rain just finished.
likewise, it's just like when I wake up, or like in the first half of the day, everybody's still sleepy,
Yeah, yeah.
and
I
I'm
I, I love
invisible.
that. I love
I'm
that.
invisible to them, so now I get the time to focus on my shit. So
And you
for
also
me,
can wrap up the day like earlier and mind your own business.
yeah, and for me it kind of works like that. Unfortunately, I always also do not always have this luxury, imagining having distributed teams. Like you have somebody in Eastern Europe, and I've had the team
You know
once.
what the downside with that is though?
Mm.
Is if you, let's say, start up your day like super early, you manage to get a lot of stuff and you're very productive. What tends to happen is by the time you finished your stuff, you actually are justified to, let's say, wrap up the day earlier. And then guess what happens? Somebody is looking for you because technically it's still not the end of the day for them, and you end up overlapping like actual working days with what happens to tend to be like extra hours.
So I can give you a couple of unethical tips on this one. Sometimes, like, I mean, I've had historical situations where I wanted to seem hyper productive and shit. So I would schedule messages on Sundays. I would schedule emails on like
Yeah,
late
yeah, yeah.
evenings, just to mime the idea that I'm all like present all over the place.
Especially when the message is at the exact time. It's not like 8:01. It's like,
you know,
or you're slick.
47, 32 minutes. You know,
You're slick. You're slick.
Yeah. I wasn't doing the exact time, and the same I'm doing.
Like when you
with
see
Slack.
the exact time, that's a fucking scheduled message.
And the same with like Slack messages and team messages scheduled. But it also has another side. Like for example, the day before yesterday, I had insomnia. Like for some fucking reason, I couldn't like go to sleep until 4 in the morning. And what I do in this kind of cases, I usually start to work at night because I know that I'm gonna be needing this couple of hours to sleep during the day. Like have a big lunch for like 3 hours, like right, sleep in midday. So
Same
then I'm
here.
starting my work day, say like at 1 a.m. You know, I'm starting to crack on this fucking tasks until I get sleepy. And then like at 4 a.m. I go to sleep, start the day normally, but then at lunch I'm gonna have a bigger amount of sleep. I think I slightly lost my idea. Oh, the tips. Fuck yeah. The tips. So at that particular time, I scheduled messages because it would be rude to write people at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m. So I scheduled messages for like morning, right?
Because you're the only night owl.
So it also works like that. It doesn't happen often. It could happen once or twice a month, but like I don't waste time. If I'm awake, I'm not gonna like just sit there.
Might as
in
well
the
just
bed.
finish
I'm
something
like
and
might as well do some shit, like do some actual stuff because eventually I'm gonna need that time the second day to catch up on my sleeping.
Now imagine if you had to work from the office. You had to actually fucking wait until you get into the office to do that work. Or like with developers, you can even like fake it, I guess. You can do your own work and then you commit the thing at the time that you are supposed to commit it. But like with management, how do you do that?
And then the second tip of like miming that you're super productive, continuing on the idea that like it's 3 p.m., for example, and somebody needs you, it's not important to solve the issue that instant. It's not always important to solve the issue that instant, but a thing that I hated historically is having Slack and Teams on my personal cell phone.
Yeah, but how do you do that then? Like you say you want to go to lunch and there's a quick one like, can you have a look at this? See if it's and all you have to do is just look and approve or whatever.
But yeah, gradually, I guess like you can call it with Vaseline. I sort of like accepted. Yeah, I've accepted it in my day-to-day routine, and now the advantages of that is like sometimes you can just like be, I don't know, having a beer or because you've asked what do you do,
you know what's the most fun part in both like Teams, Slack and whatever is like public channels don't show who's seen the message. Imagine if that was a thing. This motherfucker seen the message, he didn't reply, he didn't do shit, I'm gonna blame him.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously, you know, like I even use it at my own convenience, like sometimes to mind that I'm a god, you know, and I reply messages at 11 p.m. or like 10 p.m. So like if you need to mime that you're like present for 16, 17 hours a day and you're like hard working, schedule messages across weekends.
At the same time, isn't that like a liability to your own self? Because if people see that you're the almighty God who's present everywhere and every time, they get comfortable to that idea that this person is easily disturbable and I'm just going to text him because he's available at all times. He's my man. Whereas if, for example, you do that shit once or twice, you see that person doesn't reply after 6 p.m., you know, if you need to solve something, you need to do it before the end of the day.
Depends on your interaction style with people. So my personal style is like I'm always trying to be super nice to people. And I'm probably putting them in debt, if you know what I mean. So like by being nice. And then they fuck up for one time. And I'm like, dude, I was super nice to you. I was answering late messages. I was doing this. I was over delivering. And like, why are you disappointing me? You know, and like you're pushing on them. So it depends on like your political game, on your management style, on how you're building relationships. So back to the idea of like if somebody bothers you, I mean the best way to mime presence is just to have something on the cell phone. And the last thing is that for some freaking reason, you've asked me at the beginning of the show like what do you do? So I'm an IT project manager by day, and I'm pub owner by night.
I wanted to ask about that too.
Yeah, I have a small so to say, pub slash water pipe, shisha bong place, which are popular in Eastern Europe. In the city center, it's not big. I think it's somewhere close to 50 people at the same time. So I got used lately to the idea of even carrying the laptop with me. I don't know, like it's a bit savage. It's a bit savage, but probably it evens out. I mean, like maybe I'm gonna slack a little bit today, but I'm gonna take the laptop with me. So if something happens, then I'm there. You know, I'm just trying to play fair.
Yeah, that's why people even have like Slack and all these messaging apps in the first place. It's not necessarily to be there 100% of the time. At the same time, if something happens, then it's easy to pick it up.
So yeah, my style is usually my day is already full by the time I start it. It's like everything is scheduled at the beginning of the week.
I even know people who have Jira in their
Jira.
phone, which is something I would never do. Like I can answer messages, but I'm not fucking going into Jira.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
The Google Calendar, Slack, Teams, and
Yeah,
maybe a
yeah.
couple of mobile-friendly apps, which Jira is not definitely, but
No,
a
I don't
couple
want
of
fucking notifications on statuses and shit on my phone.
No, I don't want that. I mean, like, even if I would want that, I could probably connect the Jira bot to Slack. So then I would just
Yeah.
swipe it within a separate channel. But again, so somehow I got used to this idea that, I don't know, it's a small part of my life and I can stay connected and answer people because there's only one thing needed. So, like, for example, my day is usually planned and they're like, hey, can you do this for me now fast?
It
And I'm
should have
like,
been done yesterday.
yeah. And I'm like, dude, I'd love to, but I'm already booked. Is it okay if I do it first thing in the morning? And like in 95% of the cases, the answer is yes.
Yeah, it's
You
not
know?
about, as you said, it's not about immediate solving the problem. It's more about immediate availability.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So now that they know that the task has been delegated, there is ownership, somebody is accountable for it, they can relax, fuck off, and do whatever they did before that.
Right,
So
right.
everybody's happy at the end of the day. So I think, I mean, I've had people that I know for like, dude,
As a
I'm going to be
manager, you
late.
need to master the art of delaying things.
Probably, yeah, probably. But generally, I mean, like it's a good advice for everyone if you want to have a sound mind and a good life work balance. But I mean, I have friends which were like, dude, I'm gonna be 30 minutes late because I have this unexpected call and I was slacking. So the guy was like, he basically stopped in a parking lot, opened the laptop, and he was doing some shit. So I think that's an extreme to me. In extreme, in what
Yeah,
case?
I wouldn't prioritize it. Like sometimes I even like lunch and like see a message, mute when I'm coming back. Or I just text. I will come back. I will be like in 30 minutes. We can talk this later on. It's
I'll
not like super. It's like even if the house is burning, so to say, it's not usually the case in most times.
I'll do it. I'll do it as soon as I'm back at the computer, I guess.
Yeah, like
I'd
most
say
of the
without
times you
giving,
can wait.
yeah, without giving an actual like 30 minute, 15 minutes. Like,
Back to the pub thing though, because I was like super curious because you
mm,
don't see a lot of managers having being so diverse,
you'll
having so
be
many branches and shit.
you'll be
So
surprised.
I wouldn't be surprised because I know a lot of them myself, and they are not as branched out as yourself. So I was wondering, in a small country like Moldova,
Mm-hmm.
known to be quite corrupt in many ways,
Mm-hmm.
what is it like to do business?
You have already like slightly mentioned what it's like to do business.
I understand there's like
It isn't easy.
dirty things happening under the
Well,
table.
I wouldn't say it's like
I was always hearing about them. I cannot confirm how bad they are in reality, but I'm hearing if you have a business, it's not easy in a sense that you probably need to be more to share more of your stuff with potential other customers. Let's call
Yeah,
them.
I get it. I get it. I mean, like people come and visit and they get to know you and stuff like that. But ultimately, you build up productive relationships in the long run, and
It's all about relationship in this country.
you build a productive relationship, and you take care of your subscription, and everything goes okay
Yeah,
in a way.
it's a
But
funny way you put it, like a subscription.
yeah, it's a subscription based sort of like approach. But I think it's a lot better than it was some time ago,
Like
and
90s.
yeah, even in the beginning of the 2000s, I'd say, like everything is acquired we call it on white, right? Everything is officially acquired. The like alcohol, all of that. Salaries are paid also on white. All that, there's just one thing which I cannot talk about, which I'm legally vulnerable for.
Right.
And this is what I need the subscription based workaround. And like everybody's vulnerable for that, but I don't
I
want
understand
like
every business, especially in this.
it's particularly related for
like-
my type of thing. But if
But
I
even
would,
even normal restaurants, like the ones you go and dine at, even those have the same kind of subscription based thing
but they
happening.
probably, in my opinion, they probably do it because they're. I wanted to say stupid, probably because they don't want to complicate their life. Because I mean, like the moment the good guys step in, probably you're gonna be guilty of something. They're gonna find something eventually. I mean,
Does it get
they're gonna incriminate, or they're gonna freeze your activity while investigating something or doing something.
Yeah, that's
And
my point. That's my point. Like you.
So they just don't want to waste time and like, okay, fuck off, But it is what it is. I mean, unfortunately, I'm not happy to say that, but unfortunately, it's a part of like Eastern European culture. I'm pretty happy with the way I operate things. I would say like probably about 95, 97% of all operations are on white, except this freaking thing, which I cannot work around because this is the way the law is. I'm actually happy, I guess, at the end of the day. I get to talk to people, and like I think 70% of my guests are people from local tech companies.
Yeah.
The thing is, I had this side hustle with one of my friends. I mean, like, nicotine is my drug of choice, and alcohol, but like nicotine primarily.
Yeah.
I stumbled recently upon a study where it says that nicotine is the drug for smart people. It seemed interesting.
Well, we have a tradition here. We have the drink of choice.
The drink of choice.
Yeah. Well, you could also call it like the drug of choice.
The drink of choice, in my case, that's probably going to be whiskey. I guess that's my drink of choice. But usually
that's for a V2.
Yeah, I usually start with 1-2 glasses of wine or like with beer just to warm up, and then I switch to like. I mean, if it's not at least half a bottle, for me, it's not interesting. I mean, or we do it.
That's where the conversation starts.
But the conversation already, like the conversation can start even without alcohol. It's just like whether, because I live in the suburbs, right? And I'm going to leave my car, I'm going to take a cab. So whether we like at least, but this is like a small bottle. Probably I would down it during a sit. Either it's like half a liter, either it's 1 liter, and now you're talking. But I need 2 pints of beer before that, or like 2 glasses of wine.
Beer goes a lot easier, and you just like you don't even notice, especially if you have like you're surrounded by good company and you have some meat and whatnot. That's gonna fucking dunk really, really quick.
If you're there
with wine, slightly slower, whiskey even slower because it's obviously more alcohol and stuff.
So the thing is that nicotine is my drug of choice, and I'm a smoker of like water pipes, like bong, shisha, kalyan, all of that stuff. And I built a lot of friends around this ritual, in the places I'm calling that I was a resident of, because it usually was a place where I knew everyone, where everybody knew me, and I would just like drop a message like, hey, make it ready, I'm going to be there in 20 minutes. You would smoke. Even if you come alone, you will still get to meet somebody, over there. So this is a place where I met Ivan. And I told, and somebody said in 2007 or 2006, like, hey, you and Ivan should open your own like water pipe place.
Yeah.
We started to look for places, but it was a lot over the budget at that time. And we were younger, like it was how much, like 18 years ago. And no, I'm lying, not 2000. I think it's 2011, 2012. I was like passionate about that stuff. And along the years, I was like still Ivan's client, always like smoking shishas at wherever he used to work. And someday I had some spare cash. And I said, like, look, if you're gonna, because the business model at that time was pretty simple. You just find a restaurant and you say, like, look, I come with my water pipes, I come with my tobacco, I come with my people, and we share the revenue, not even the profit, but we share the revenue.
Right.
And I was like, look, how much would you need? Like, I have this friend, he has a restaurant, and he was interested in water pipes. I would be interested in going 50-50 with you. Like, you have the knowledge, I have the cash. Like, you interested. And like, this is how we started a couple of years ago. And like, I think at the peak of it, we had about 5 restaurants under this model of business, but then it started to
So
slowly
you like
die out
initially started as providing a service of water pipes and
in restaurants.
yeah. Because I know this stuff because they have like, I know a few restaurants in Chisinau where they have this type of service that's included in the menu. And then what you tend to notice is people not necessarily like you see people clothing in the same clothes, basically, like waiters and whatnot. And then you see the other people which are responsible for this domain alone. And it's evident that they're not part of the restaurant in some way.
Yeah, and it's basically like it's a business within a business.
Yep.
But these business models gradually started to die out, and everybody was like focusing on strictly on like water pipe places and on
You don't have the
restaurants.
brand, you just basically outsource.
Yeah, absolutely. So somehow the consumption culture changed into a direction of like not having everything in one place, but having a beautiful experience of wine and meat, then having a beautiful experience with water pipe. People didn't want to mix smoke with food and things like that. So
Yeah.
out of the 5, we eventually ended up with 1, and we had we still have like expensive and good tobacco, but at that time we were selling it for a symbolic price, which I guess was like twice as cheaper as like the average on the market, just to preserve our client base.
Right.
We didn't know like what we're gonna do next. That particular point was this, it was the last selling point. It wasn't that profitable. And I get to meet one of my friends, and then he calls for another friend, and like suddenly I find myself caught within a Friday tradition that around like sometimes 27, sometimes 22, sometimes 15 guys from different IT companies like merge their tables together on Friday without telling anyone. Somebody could come at 5, somebody at 7, somebody at 9.
Yeah.
But it turned up into sort of like a tradition where people would discuss like, hey, what open position do you have? Like, hey, let's take this guy and share like the
Good
the
old pub
bonus,
days.
and share the bonus. Like, hey, I heard that the salary over there is higher.
I didn't know that there was such a thing because I would obviously look for such events.
But it was natural. I mean, like, it was a friend of a friend.
Yeah.
It was a small circle of up to 30 people, right? And one day, the owner of that place comes and says, like, Terentie, Ivan, I'm gonna refurbish this place, repurpose it, and water pipes are not a plan of how I see my the future for my restaurant. You guys have a month. Like, okay, no problem. It is what it is. I mean, like, it wasn't bringing a lot of cash anyway. We were doing it just to preserve our old client base. And the guys are like, hey, where are we going to smoke on Fridays? Like, I don't care. We're going to go to any other similar place. Like, no, you have to open your place with Ivan. Like, fuck, deja vu. And we're talking. I'm like, what would be a reasonable amount of cash you would be willing to burn at the end of the month for a rent? Imagining that it's not going to be profitable.
Yeah.
We do the math. We find a place in the city center. We make a Telegram group of 30 people, those 30 idiots I talked about. We already had the water pipes. We already had some tobacco. So I just had to buy some Coca-Cola, Fanta, and Sprite. I didn't even have proper glasses. I mean, like, it was plastic bottles of 0.5 liters. And this is how it all started. Up to this day, it's a speakeasy. Up to this day, you have the code that you have to input in order to open the door. It's a sort of like, when you enter that place, most probably you're going to make a circle at all of the tables and greet everyone, because most probably it's a friend of a friend, or it's a guy that you have known from a different company. It's too small of a
fucking country, and the industry is like...
Considering the fact that it started from 30 IT guys, and it's 2 years old, and now the group, I think, has about 800 users over there. So 70% of it are IT guys. The other 30% are probably Ivan's friends, which come from Horeca, are also guys responsible for water pipes in other businesses.
Is it profitable now?
So it was profitable from day one. Even with 30 guys, it was profitable from day one. I mean, like, we didn't.
I guess people bought into the idea, into the brand. Because
Nah,
until that point, you were doing like outsourcing
people
and
bought
stuff,
into the idea of a freaking safe space.
and you
Um,
don't have this.
in
Because I was always thinking of these ideas, like, what if I opened a restaurant but made the vibe and the atmosphere in a cool programmer style way of things, and you don't have this.
I can share. I can share. Yeah, I can share a couple of things. It was profitable from day one. It's just that I wasn't eager to extract the profit from the revenue. So everything that we had, we reinvested either in refurbishing the furniture, either in buying another fridge, either in enlarging the assortment of the beverages, drinks, alcoholic
Yeah, yeah,
drinks,
yeah.
adding beer and all of that stuff. So I think for about so I'm extracting money from it the last 5 months. This is at the point where, like, look, we have air
I think that's
conditioning, everything.
expected.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think I counted for about half a year. I was like, okay, in half a year, I'm gonna have a side hustle, which is gonna bring me some cash. But it took 3 times as much time as I was originally counting on. But it's okay. I mean, like, it consumes 10 hours a week at most, like,
yeah.
of actual work. I'm over there probably every freaking evening, whether after 8 p.m., whether after 10 p.m., sometimes midnight. I'm gonna go there, and I'm gonna find
Do
someone.
you actually do it for the profit or more for keeping up the
You
community?
was the thing. You was the thing. I couldn't find the proper word. Somebody said it, and I think that's a fair word. Probably it's a business for the ego. You know,
Yeah,
it if I would have to count the cash, I mean, like, the check that I'm getting from the company that I'm working with at is at least like 4 times higher, I guess. But it's the pleasure that I get from having it, owning it. I mean, at the end of the day, I love spending time in public play, like in pubs, bars, restaurants. I would have spent that money anyway, right? Now I'm creating a couple of working places. I'm an employer. I'm paying taxes,
it feels good.
whatnot. So it's the same shit, I guess, at the end of the day. But now I know that the money goes back to me. It's like a cashback, and like my friends are spending money also at my places. Sometimes I even get jealous, like, where the fuck did you go to that place? Like, your friend, your friend has a pub. What are you missing at that place? And the thing that we started with, you said, like, I'm not aware of, like, there are a lot of guys. So there are a couple of DevOps, I think, from another fintech corporation over here that have
Yeah,
opened
yeah,
Kovorbar, right?
yeah.
And there's the head of another company over here which has a cigar pub,
Interesting.
and there's another DevOps, but he is freelance and he has a rooftop place in the city center. So, like, at least I know a couple of guys from the tech sector which for some freaking reason decide to open a place.
Yeah, that's very, very interesting because I always thought of these like I don't know, pubs and stuff, like people who fucking, I guess it in a way you're enjoying life and whatnot. But
Ye-
then I guess I always like I never thought that the people there are actually a lot of them from IT. Because yeah, you have a beer and whatnot. Typically, you go out with your friends, have some fun, and then you go back home. But to have this ceremonial almost events, yeah, this is interesting.
and what I noticed, you asked, like, culture, IT, atmosphere in terms of, like, decorations. What would make
Not
a
necessarily
place
decorations. I was because typically when you go in these places, it's fucking loud. It's noisy. It's to an extent, it's annoying.
That helps. That helps. You have
No,
a couple of glasses, and suddenly, you start to like the music.
yeah, yeah,
The conclusion that I've made after 2 years of running a small pub is, people come after people. They don't care about the furniture. They don't care about the chair. They could close the eyes. I don't know. Maybe the glass has a little scratch, or, like, I don't know, the bathroom smells.
yeah.
It's all about the people. It's all about the vibe. And sometimes small things, like, I've tested a lot of, I call them, like, emotional triggers. I've tested a lot of them. It could be a song.
Yeah.
Sometimes, I mean, like, something triggered me a couple of days ago, and I asked the guy on the TV, like, we usually have this sort of, like, backgrounds with our logo, and the music is playing. It's very atmospheric. During winter time, we also put, a fireplace on the screen. But that day I was like, I want to trigger some memories, you know. And I've asked the guy to put an 8 hour playthrough of GTA Vice City and
Yeah,
on the
yeah.
screen. Dude, you would have to see, you know, like and people were authentically watching it, you know. And the next day was San Andreas, then GTA 3, and it sort of
I
like
mean,
went into
it's
a loop.
nostalgic in a way because that was the times
Exactly.
when
So
people.
it's not always about expensive furniture or about stuff like that. You probably have to play with events and like messages in your Telegram group and what you put on.
I meant more like as people, we are very tribalistic.
Absolutely.
We want to belong to some kind of club, some kind of tribe, some kind of unique group where we share common interests. And as engineers, we're quite introverts, weird, and we want to find more people like us, I guess. And when you go to your typical pub, you see a bunch of people like from random like industries and whatnot, different behaviors, and you tend to like dissociate yourself from them in a way. So yeah, that's I guess my limitation until the point you mentioned that there's so many pubs opened by IT guys and whatnot. I'm like,
Yeah.
I should check them out probably.
Yeah, the thing is that due to this like speakeasy stuff and blah blah blah, I mean, like even introverts, they could go joking, screaming, and laughing, and like
Yeah,
I'm asking why they
because
feel
when you
within a
know,
safe space,
yeah,
you
when
know.
you know there's like 70 to 80% of your own tribe there, then you feel safe to crack a joke, knowing that people will understand it. You don't feel like the fucking loser who goes to like the
You
disco pub
shouldn't.
and he can connect with any like girl or person there because it's just weird and he's the only one who's the nerd and whatnot. Yeah, I guess that's the idea behind this safe space as you mentioned.
And the third thing which I've mentioned is like the third place. The third place being like what we're used with home, we're used with work or school or like kindergarten, like being the second place, and there's the need for the third place, you know. And the third place is this like pub that you see in English crime movies where everybody goes to have a beer and everybody knows the barman and things like your own pub, you know, within a certain
Go plan some shit.
yeah. So this is so I noticed that this is a comfortable third place for a lot of people.
Yeah. I haven't practiced that in a while, but I am down for trying. At least you've intrigued me. What would you say is the thing which is the biggest pain point in most IT companies when it comes to managing projects? Like the mistake they make and possibly the bottleneck you see every company is having?
So management is generally about managing resources. I mean, it has the management per se has a lot of definitions, and the scientific community did not agree on a common definition, whatever. But when I'm thinking, I mean, everything is complicated. To be honest, you can have a surprise from all of the pipelines, be it people, be it time, be it client, be it the financial like resources.
Let's say finance is not a big issue. Let's say it's strictly a management issue.
But I mean, like we as managers are responsible for, like at least in the company that I'm working at, like I'm responsible for everything. I'm sort of like the entrepreneur, right? For
Yeah,
this
yeah, yeah, yeah,
particular
yeah.
for this particular project,
You're the one man army of a
and I'm
project.
responsible for the margin, for the profit margin on the project. I'm responsible for the timelines. I'm responsible for people. For like if something goes wrong, then I would need to plan B for this guy and open a demand to the open market and like get him hired, interview him. So
Yeah,
like
yeah.
you're in I mean you have a lot of backup. You have technical interviewers, recruiters, you have resources which you can reach out to, but in a way or other you are the one that are responsible for that, because like I don't know, at the end of the day it all comes to money. I guess it all comes to money, profit margin, and profitability, revenue. Companies doing okay, you're gonna do okay at the end of the day. But at the same time I can say it's all about the people, you know, because people are making money, people are delivering the project. The client is a person, your engineer is a person, you are a person, so it's all about the people. It's tough to make a bet on one thing. I mean, like you can have an ideal team with ideal people, but then you're fucked on the budget or you do not deliver on time and everything is fucked.
Can
It's
you
like
get stressed?
you always are at least like anxious. And I was talking to a couple of my friends a couple of days ago, and I said like, look, I had a challenging period since like say mid-April or so, and like I have a lot of stuff to do, and like there's something which I want to gain currently in the context of my future promotion, so I'm over delivering a lot of stuff, maybe sometimes even overworking. And my question to them in our in our group chat was like, look, how many days a week do you feel like shit, like literally a piece of shit? And I said like, probably I feel at least as of April until now, maybe I had 1 or 2 weeks when I felt as a white person, I
Yeah,
guess,
yeah.
but generally like 3 to 5, I mean 1 to 3 days a week I usually feel like shit.
So
It could be because of an engineer which and I like we have, I don't know, like I cannot say that he's spoiled, but probably he's asking too much, right? And finally, we reach a consensus after like 3 months with that particular engineer, and then all of a sudden he decides to leave like the company in November. But like everything just like started to go fine, and he's a senior engineer, or like you have another senior engineer, which is you have this cult of personality, and like everybody's like, oh, this guy, and but he isn't delivering shit, and he is lying. He's assigned 50% to one project, 50% to another project, and to that project manager he says that he's busy with my project, and to my project he says that he's busy with that
yeah,
project. And like,
yeah,
dude, does he say the same legend to you? Yes. Like let's fuck him, you know.
yeah.
And when we expose him, then he gets upset, and I'm gonna leave the company and things like that. And like, fuck you, fuck you. You can, like, I'm not paying a single penny for your time,
Yeah, because you need to, and I wanted to touch on that. Like as a manager, you cannot be nice to everyone because you have targets to hit.
I'm not trying to be nice, but I want to be fair to people. Like, I
Yeah,
don't want to
yeah,
be an asshole. If that guy is nice to me, why can't I be nice to him as well? Like, it's obvious we're not there to make friends, and we're not there to be friends, with some exceptions, but you can be
but you deal with people anyway.
you can be in a common sense of things, a human with a human, like piece to piece. He's okay, I'm okay, you treat me well, I treat you well. Like, you do an exception, I make an exception. As long as you're on time, the deliverables are met, you're happy, I'm happy, you have a certain dose of flexibility, I'm also flexible. But like, when the guy is constantly like harassing the shit out of you, and like constantly demotivating the team, and you have, like, for example, two of them, both of them are seniors, and like even middles are coming to you like, look, I'm used to seeing a technical lead as a role model, as an inspiration model, but he's actually demotivating me, like he's acting as a small kid, as a spoiled small kid. And you like figure this stuff out, and then you have to rotate them again, you have to ask for a replacement, but the account is just at the beginning, and the client could be not very much so happy about you constantly switching senior guys, and that could
Have
raise a
you
couple
have
of
you
trust
ever
issues.
have you ever
I'm talking
advocated for like firing such people?
I'm talking. I have contributed to firing a business analyst a couple of months ago. I think my first assignment on that first company that hired me was like, they told me like, you need to fire this guy, and that was really my first.
Assignment.
Yeah, that was an assignment. Like,
Yeah.
look, how much you have been with us for like 3 weeks, right?
Yeah, but
Okay,
business
so
analyst is not the case you bring. Like like what you mentioned with developers, a lot of the times it comes down to ego, and like you mentioned, like their ego, the fact that they're lying, they're not delivering this and that, but at the same time they have like the respect of their peers because of their position they're in.
either way, I mean, I tell to myself, either way is going to be painful, right? So why
So
then waste time and money? Goodbye. And I cannot fire people, but I can influence and contribute. Like,
yeah,
if
that's my
that guy,
point. That's my point.
that guy is already in the death note notebook, right?
Yeah.
And he had unpleasant precedents on other accounts, and he's over here, and I know that the feedback that I'm going to give is going to contributing to them terminating the contract with him. I'm going to give it. I don't care. I mean,
Yeah.
like, in
Yeah.
my world, that's fair. And because I'm always, as I've mentioned, I'm always nice to people. And I've created the incentive of us having a productive relationship. And then you're being an asshole once, twice. Goodbye. I
What
mean,
would you say? What would you say is the difference between a good developer, a good software engineer versus a great one?
I think it's all about the intention, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah.
Like, in the world of management, is all about the intention. Like, if the guy says like, I don't know how, but I know that I can, and I will find a way. For me, that's already a good start, and I'm gonna sleep well at night. If the guy says, I'm a senior, I have 14 years of experience, but I haven't touched on this particular framework, or this is not my responsibility, and I don't want to know shit about the front end. That's his responsibility. Or that, like, you're always, protecting yourself in a box. Or this is, I don't know, this is React, and I don't do Angular. Or like, dude, come on, like, you're at least a front-end engineer. But like back in the days when I've just entered the industries, I've had like, you're an engineer, right? Like, you engineer
Yeah,
stuff.
your
You
problem
shouldn't
is
care
solving.
about, you
Yeah,
shouldn't care too much. I mean, I've met guys that they knew about, I don't know, like 14 syntaxes, or like 7 syntaxes, 14 frameworks. And I'm like asking, what do you code in? Like, what do you mean, what do I code in? I'm an engineer. I don't give a fuck. Like, you give me a couple of weeks, I get used to a framework, and then I solve problems. This is the guys that I've met a couple, like 7 years ago. Obviously, the industry has evolved, and this is a luxury. I'm not expecting this, because there are a lot of frameworks and a lot of, strategies how you can solve a problem. And it's okay to focus on a specific discipline. But at least, for fuck's sake, if you're a front end, I don't know. You can challenge my opinion, but if you're a front end, I mean, like, switching from React to Angular in a reasonable amount of time, or at least having the interest to
I would
fucking know.
say it even decreases your let's say engineering status if you like profile yourself as I am XYZ framework engineer or developer.
Does it?
Because no, I mean it degrades it. Like
Mm.
if you say I'm a React developer as opposed to you say I'm a front end engineer, and I don't give a shit which framework I'm gonna pick as long as I solve UI
Problems?
stuff, UI issues, like develop stuff. That I see as a benefit, and I see as a way to position yourself as higher in terms of if you want to get hired or not.
So
But yeah,
in my world, for example, having a fair amount of flexibility and of like confidence that I can do it, and I'm interested, like the intention, like the core. I don't care about the grade that much, to be honest. I don't care about his grade. Like, if he's middle and he has the intention to, I'm pretty confident that he's gonna fly like a butterfly to the light, and he's gonna be senior one day. Like, that's a guy I want to work with. And
yeah. The problem with seniors is a lot of the times you need to deal with their ego, and they have a lot of habits that more or less can be toxic. And they have, it's easier to learn something new. Let's say you're a junior, it's easier to like learn the best practices if you're put in the right environment. Whereas if you're a senior and you've already been in many companies, you already have potentially stuff that you have to unlearn, and that can be in many ways detrimental to a team.
That's an interesting thing, and I'm curious. Like, I'm trying to challenge myself right now and look forward to some other disciplines and industries. The more senior you are, the more complicated as a type of personality
It's
you
the
are.
same with relationships. Like let's say the older the person is that is entering a human relationship, the more habits and behaviors they have to unlearn in order for them to deal with the other person. Whereas if they just start out, they don't know how the fucking shit works. They don't know what the relationship is. They don't know what's right, what's bad. Like, they don't know all these red flags and stuff like that. For them, it's just a learning experience. And no matter what happens, it's going to be a good one.
I get that and I accept that. I think when we're talking about complicated personalities, historically, I've met like genuinely complicated people once, twice. And I could say that that's authentic because I can't say that they're like autistic on their own spectrum, but you see, it's a special behavior, right?
Yeah.
But
yeah.
he's trying to fit in. He's like, he has an honest problem. You solve the problem, and he was honest about it. You solved it, and everything's fine, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
While with fucked up people, spoiled people, whatever they say, whatever you're gonna try to solve, they're still gonna be assholes. So to me, that's a bit different. And I'm trying to think: is it present in other industries as well? But it's
particular
for
for
tech because
engineer,
of like
because of the, let's say, because of the, like, before we got into this whole AI boom, typically this was considered like the elite, like people who know a lot of stuff, the nerds and whatnot. Nowadays, a lot of people can have access to the same information, but until this point, at least, this was how they built their ego. Like, I know this many frameworks, this many languages. I'm so very competent. I am so rare on the market. People need me. Companies try to pull me here and there, and for them, this is validating their ego. It's also like a way to dignify themselves. Like, you have your own dignity, and this is how you pride yourself. I'm a software engineer. I solve problems nobody else can solve. while at the same time you need to be careful on your ego, because this if this gets validated left and right, what ends up happening is you have an overinflated self-esteem, and you think you're the best, and you just think everybody else is stupid.
It's just a question of time.
Yeah.
I mean, you're still gonna get a reality check one day
Exactly,
or the
yeah.
other. It's
And
still
with
it just
business, you a lot of the times have to make trade-offs, and your engineering perfect world a lot of the times has to collapse or has to come to some kind of reality where you see that there's a business problem. I need to maybe compromise on certain things that I consider best practice. And most best practices in the engineering world are like a deck of cards anyway. Like the moment you like face the reality, the entire thing like goes poof, because yeah, like you need to solve, like as an engineer you need to be there to bring value to the business. That's what we're here in the first place. We are solving the problems for the business that hired us to do so.
yeah, and that's the second thing that I would actually appreciate in an engineer. At the end of the day, we're solving problems, and I would appreciate that, especially when it comes in conflict with like best engineering practices, for example. And sometimes we have to cut corners or to sacrifice because, like, look, we can't afford to make it look beautiful. We can't afford to refactor. We have to accept a certain way of like technical debt and like, I mean, it's gonna be beautiful, it's gonna be over engineered, but then it's gonna be super expensive. Nobody's gonna buy it, and like, why are we doing that, right? So that's also something that you would need to account for. And that, I mean, back in the days when you had the luxury of having clients here and there, where a lot of engineers would just like take a company and open their own LLC, and now like
Yeah,
look at
but
myself,
those typically tend to fail because you have engineers and because they think like engineers.
that's what I wanted. That's the risk that I wanted to emphasize. Like they, I noticed cases when people were like too technical about their product. They were empowering the engineering agenda rather than the business agenda, and this is why it was failing in the first place, because in the first place it's a business, right?
Correct, because you might be over engineering and solving a problem which doesn't yet exist. Like I tend to do this a lot. A lot of us engineers, especially with time, you grow as a senior, you start being paranoid in many ways. Like I want to optimize things before they even become a thing, and all of these obviously take time, and all of this might not be what the business needs at the time. And sometimes you just need to take a blind eye and say, look, this is what the business needs. If this is going to happen faster, which equals to more revenue, more overall business value, maybe this is better. And I I wanted to even ask this, like, what would make like a good engineer, or can engineers be actually good managers, good businessmen? Because a lot of the times we're trapped in this ideal world of engineering, where things are supposed to be perfect, things are supposed to be done according to best practices, but the world of business is not perfect.
Of course they can.
It's full of flaws, and we have to take on compromises, close eyes, cut corners, as you said, and like to what extent they can also be good managers. And
Of course they can be good
and
managers.
if they become good managers, then should they maybe compromise on the best practices and standards they have in their own head?
They could face situations where they would have to compromise on the best practices in favor of the actual financial benefit. But obviously, anyone can be a manager, anyone can be a businessman. Like anyone has the chance to, under proper conditions and circumstances and experience, willing, intention.
Do you think with like the whole AI rise and whatnot, the future of job market looks more like managing as opposed to doing routine work? Because if, let's suppose, some of like a lot of the work eventually gets automated, what would be your prediction for the next 5 years on the job market? Is it going to be more managing jobs, or is it also going to involve some kind of routine?
There are too many variables to answer this question, and I'm not, I guess, the best expert into this, because I usually avoid hypes like crypto, AI, and stuff like that. I'm not so skeptical about people losing jobs in context of AI. For sure, I'm not that skeptical.
Let's say not necessarily losing them, but more like transitioning from a routine-based job to more of a managing slash validating approval type of job. let's say, like this is what happens at least in the engineering world. If previously you had to write everything by hand, we then transitioned to really smart IDEs that gave us IntelliSense. From that we also switched to like LLMs and whatnot, and now a bunch of shit gets generated. We just validate that it does what it should do.
If we were to extrapolate the current tendency and like go linearly, it would seem as so.
Except it's not linear.
The variable that keeps my curiosity awake is you'd have to have someone with a certain amount of knowledge and seniority, right? Right. AI currently is solving junior tasks. Most of like junior tasks are solved. This is why a lot of juniors mention the fact that it's hard for them to get in the industry. So like the benchmark is higher right now.
Yeah, the bar has gotten so much higher.
Absolutely. But I mean, people are getting old, people are dying, so the wars could be over. The industry, the economy can be booming again.
Yeah.
My question would be where we are going to get the juniors from.
Yeah, we need the next generation of engineers.
Where are we going to get them?
Yeah.
And the same questions in respect to your hypothesis, like say we're going to have people, okay, but they have to have the knowledge. Who's going to spend the time to learn?
Yeah, are they like my question I ask everybody who's like bullish on AI and whatnot. So AI assisted development is an idea and trend that is being pushed and shoved down the throat of especially juniors. Now, the other question is, do you want them to know concepts? A lot of managers would say yes, because I want them to know how they build stuff and I want high quality products. At the same time, the counter question is, are they motivated to do so though? When you take into consideration budgets, time, deadlines, and all that stuff, do managers actually care that they know stuff as long as the shit gets delivered?
As long as the shit gets delivered within time, I don't care about that. Unless, I don't know, there's pressure coming from the board saying like, look, we need to have AI everywhere because that's fancy and I need a report from your guys, like how much of them are using Copilot and all of that fancy shit. And I'm like, hey, are you using? No, let's say that you're using, and things like that. And things like that. So there is a certain AI bubblish financial agenda, kind of like hyper thing going on, being shut onto everybody's throat at this point. Let's see where it gets at. Some of it will stay with us just as crypto. Some of it will blow up in a way, but things will change, obviously. The way they're changed, I don't know. It's so fucking complicated. I mean, like, there are too many variables in it for me. I have just, as I've mentioned earlier, one open question: like, where are we going to get those guys with experience that are going to sit in front of the screen to validate, to review, which implies that they should have a certain amount of knowledge.
Yeah,
Who's going to spend the time?
I personally see a disconnect. Like if previously we kind of picked up everything on our own, we had little information. Now you have so much information.
Is it gonna?
And nobody is fucking teaching the younger generation.
Is it gonna be like medicine? You're gonna study for 7-8 years until you write your first fucking line of code.
Yeah, like if you fucking look at the requirements which HRs put on any job posting, it's fucking nuts. Like you need to have been born already to fucking start the job,
I get that. So am I curious? Obviously. Do I know? Not the best guy to give you a forecast.
You mentioned something interesting earlier, which is stress, because I asked you about like stressful environments and whatnot. I was curious.
How do I deal with stress?
Not that. My question would be, if you were to encourage somebody who doesn't drink and doesn't smoke and who is into IT, let's say they're a software engineer, they're a QA, they're a designer.
No, I would not.
How would they deal with stress?
No, I wouldn't encourage everyone. Like if you're looking for a tasty piece of the cake and for an easy job, obviously project management is not. There's a bias that it's mostly about communicating and doing stuff. There's a lot of reporting that you have to do, accounting, management, risk management, escalating. There was this thing back in the day when an engineer wasn't that proficient, to say, and they would say like, look, but he's a good communicator. Let's make him a scrum master. And then like, let's make him a project manager. And I've seen cases like that. Sometimes it worked, but most of the cases it did not. because it's not about communicating. Like at a small level, it could be operational, but when you get higher to the strategic levels, it's a different game. This is why I think engineers are potentially good at management, because of this physics and mathematical type of thinking. I honestly
The
believe that
systemic way of thinking.
I honestly believe that they are more advantaged and inclined towards management and business,
Yeah, and like
compared to me, a
the
humanitarian.
common issue that I see with between engineers and managers, and correct me if I'm wrong, is a lot of the times engineers tend to believe managers are stupid, and a lot of them are.
And
And
managers,
they sometimes they try to play around this idea that they're stupid, but other times they're just blatant about it. They just tell them straight to their face, "Look, I already told you this is not possible. Fuck off."
yeah, I get that, and that's an interesting topic to explore. And I could say that, and managers think that engineers are stupid, and but because psychology says, how do we call people that do not do what we want them to do? We call them stupid. I mean,
Or do not understand.
We
do not
call
fall
them
into.
the other tribe, the stupid, the
Correct,
bad, right?
correct.
So it's a psychological reaction.
No, but I was trying to make the parallel to what you said, that engineers typically think more systemically, more of from the problem solving type of aspect. Whereas managers think of, when will X be done? When will this? They think about, all they think is budget and time. So as long as you're not doing something that's within that criteria, you're kind of being useless.
When it will be done is just the tip of the iceberg. That is kind of I don't know. Imagine this as a sonar.
Let me ask you this, because a huge part of your job is trying to come up with very creative ways of asking people, when will X be done? What are some of your strategies on that?
I think with age, I kind of I gave up on it. So it's mostly about how I build the relationship with the guy, and look, I'm not gonna lie, I just want to know where we at with it. Okay. Mm-hmm. But if I would have a tough time, I mean, usually I use the daily for that. I wouldn't want to waste 15 minutes and then go in private and ask again. So my tactics is usually
put the public pressure.
Not necessarily. My daily stand-ups are quite fast, because I'm not expecting this is what I did, this is what I'm gonna do, and this is what I'm blocked. I just,
and half the team don't even care, don't even listen.
So according to the Scrum guide, there are several ways in which you are allowed to conduct the daily, and one of the ways which I like is walk the board. So I just take the board top to bottom and I walk it, hey Ilya, what's up with this one? Hey Oleg, yesterday we talked about this one, you said that is that still valid? Hey Ivan, that's quite a quite a big
let's
task.
say you go over the board, and the, let's say the same guy is stuck on the same ticket, and he said he said it's going to be done end of the day. It's not done by the end of the day. The next day he says the same shit, it's not done. The next day he says the same shit, it's not done.
No, it's not going to be like that. I mean, we have two scenarios over here. So one scenario is if he says that it's taking the second day,
let's say it's a bug. Typically those are hard to estimate, hard to find.
I don't bother about bugs, to be honest. So first of all, when we I don't crack on bugs instantly. I don't crack on them. Most likely they're going to be triaged and prioritized, and we're going to have a separate time when we're going to focus on bugs. We have 1 or 2 days to fix bugs. We're going to fix them according to the most critical to not critical. Thank you, goodbye, known issue. If the client wants to pay, then we're going to fix the nice to have, the nice to fix, all of that stuff. But we while developing, we fix only the critical stuff. Meets the requirements, cool. If the guy is on an issue the second day while he committed to have it done within 1 day, I'm going to ask look, it seems like it's taking a bit more than necessary. What's keeping you, or what's preventing you from succeeding, my friend, my G? And he's going to say look, boss, is going to be done, or I had this, I assumed that, but then the tech lead reviewed it, I'm going to and it seems a fair argument. I'm going to piss off, no problem. If the task, for example, let's imagine another scenario. So the task is 5 or 7 days long, which I usually avoid to do, because if it's fucking 5 or 7 days long, most probably you had an opportunity to make it more granular, but either you are lazy, either you do not know the solution, the more, in my opinion, the more the engineer fantasizes about the actual implementation, the more clarity he has over what he has to do. Like he's like drawing a plan, and the more clarity he has, the easier for him is to give this estimate, which is not a commitment, but it's still something.
Yeah.
So if it's like, for example, 5 days, and like we have a couple of days left until he missed the 7th day deadline of that big chunk of work that he's doing, I'm like, look, we're still confident that we are gonna make it in time. He's like, yes, boss, everything is gonna be fine, no worries. Or like, look, it's not. Why haven't you like told me earlier? Or like,
Yeah, because no
like,
matter what you say, you're fucking. You
things
don't
like
look
that.
good
Like,
anyway.
look, I'm gonna take care of this right now, but next time, as lesson learned, I mean, like, let's avoid. Like, for me, usually in the ways of working, rule number one with all of my team is like no surprise policy. Like, we avoid surprises, right? You pass
Yeah.
the ball, so I'm all about avoiding surprises, because it's gonna we it's not a question of yes or no, it's a question of when we're going to end up in a sticky situation. So no surprises, for sure. So I kind of like make use of the daily stand up. Let's imagine it's, I don't know, a complicated situation. Then I could probably do it once, twice, like I could ask him on a particular task, and then he was late, and then I'm gonna ask him the second time on another task, like on another sprint, and he's gonna say like, look, and he's gonna initiate the conflict and the dialogue, like, look, why are you asking twice or three times a day? And I'm gonna be like, because like historically we've already had some precedents, and I'm looking forward ways of making you succeed. We need this, but or do you need somebody to help you, support you?
Do you take advantage of retrospectives to maybe
I
improve certain processes and whatnot?
tend to make them like once a month, to be honest, because
Are they fruitful?
for me, because usually it ends up with a bunch of things I have to do. I'm the kind of person like, look, I'm going to take care of this, I'm going to do that, look, we're going to change this, okay, I'm going to schedule this for that one, and you're going to decide like what's going to be the branching strategy, or how can we improve this, or how can we automate the pipeline. So usually it ends up with like 8 to 9 action points for me. So I like to do it once a month.
Yeah.
And the next retro that I usually start with like, look, this is what you asked us to do. 7 of 9 are completed. Those are going to spill over to the next period of time, because I didn't have the time, or like it's not that important. It can wait. So I'm usually rather pretty honest about it. But my strategy to work with evasive guys is I let them evade once, twice, and then I'm gonna catch them in the debt. I'm gonna catch them like, look, you fucked up once, you fucked up twice. Either we communicate, or if you want to escalate that, feel free to ask for rotation to a different project. I mean, like, I have to know.
You play the dummy for a few times?
I always like to play the dummy. I was inspired by one of my fellow colleagues at my first tech job. He was in Latin America, and a part of our integration was hardware. It was like software and hardware solution. So the guy was working for that company, I don't know for how much, like 7 or 8 years. Imagine, I don't know, Pedro or Juan, and eventually he would play the dummy. He had this fucking strategy, like, it's a new client. He says like, oh, don't be picky, sir, it's my first day at work today, this is the, and he was doing that for 7 or 8 years in a row. Like, this is my first day, and that inspired me. That obviously inspired me. So I always like to play the dummy. But sometimes people get surprised where we end up in the usual suspect kind of like ending, or like Kaiser Susie situations. I like soft power in general. People don't like confrontation. People like, you have to be soft. And then you have the debt, you have the penalties. Look, I was fair to you.
Come and collect.
I was fair to you. I was nice to you. Either we look for opportunities to correct this, either you go to a different project with a certain feedback, and I don't care about it.
They put them in a position where they can't fucking escape, basically. Because now they know they fucked up, and you know that they know they fucked up.
I'm being usually a little bit patient, allowing 1-2 mistakes, and then I make my notes, and we start the debt collection. It's my strategy of manipulating.
Good, interesting one.
But in the same time, I mean, like, if the person doesn't fuck up, why would I look for a way to corner him?
Yeah, right? It doesn't make sense. I mean, more in like, you catch them once, twice, as you mentioned, then this is justified to do that.
For me, it's important to be fair, right? So if there's no pretext, I don't touch you. If there is...
Yeah, why would you create yourself problems? I guess dude, there's so many fucking things I want to talk to you about, and my list of questions is so big. But yeah, we have so little time. But I want to come to a maybe closing. I wanted to ask, do you have like a moment in your career that was humbling? Because all of us have this moment which, I don't know, changes trajectory, makes us think and question our
I had
decision making.
I had a moment in my life that obviously made me a lot more humble and changed my relationship to a lot of things. So at 24, that was like almost 13 years ago, I had a near-death experience, and it like the first thing it made me do is put value on a lot of things, especially the relationship with my family. So one thing that obviously changed as of that particular day is that I'm trying to have like regular calls with my mom, and each call is like, "Mom, I love you," even though I'm like soon 37.
Yeah.
I also probably noticed that from that particular day, I'm like always anxious and rushing because I accept the idea that you can always, I don't know, end up with a brick on your head, and
Can
this
be the last
particular,
day.
it can be your last day. You never know when it hits you. I always try to get the most. I always, look for this meaning of life, and like I try to give meaning to things. That was and the things at that time that seemed important to me, because I was going through a breakup of sorts, and I was very much, in love, and like all of that stuff at that age, it didn't seem as a bigger problem, suddenly, like within a couple of seconds, you start to think like, hey, am I gonna stay alive after this car crash or no? Like, and then like you end up in the hospital and you're in a wheelchair. Like, look, I'll need to be in a wheelchair for the rest of my life. Could I accept it at 24 years old? Because I still have a life ahead of me, and then like you gradually go through all of that shit. And that was an interesting psychological exercise. I mean, like everybody does this whole retreat and ayahuasca shit. If I were convinced 100%
But
that I
you
would,
never know. It just happens,
yeah,
You're not
yeah,
ready for it.
in the context of this whole like awakening and awareness and blah blah blah, if there would be a way to have a near death experience and be 100% sure that you would come back from the other side, I would obviously recommend
Yeah,
it.
but
I would recommend it to
then you
everyone.
would look for the next near death experience.
Could be,
Yeah, yeah.
could be, but that was definitely something that made me review a lot of stuff. It had its like pluses and side effects. The side effect is that I'm always anxious and rushing, but
Yeah, yeah.
there are certain things that I've gained from it. As per my job, I wouldn't say that I've had any humbling experience. It's anecdotal experiences, because I could end up in a couple of years, if we, I don't know, have the chance to talk again, to say opposite stuff. Absolutely, because like sometimes my opinions go as a pendulum,
We will
or as a
definitely have a
spiral.
chance to talk again.
Yeah, or as a spiral,
Yeah.
things could change in 2 years because, I don't know, the market change, my ages changes. I could have different encounters,
No, that's
experience.
fair. That's fair. You grow up as a person and you learn new things.
So it's not so much about humbling as about probably sometimes reviewing and going back, like, look, I think 5 years ago
Switching
I wasn't
lenses.
wrong. I
Yeah.
wasn't wrong. Like my initial impression was right,
Yeah, yeah. What's your motivation? What makes you wake up earlier and go to bed later? Because everyone has, like, especially people that have this
I
rush.
I
Like
wanna
you mentioned, you have this rush, especially people that like always rush for something. They must live for something. They must have this
I want to
spark.
escape. I want to escape the 9 to 5. I want to escape the 9 to 5 because people ask me like, "Hey, are you happy with what you do?" And usually I answer like, "Look, I'm good at what I do. I'm fairly good at what I do."
Yeah,
That's the way of avoiding the answer. I have I say that I'm in the Shawshank Redemption journey right
that's a
now.
good movie.
Yeah, this is sort of like the a movie that would explain the kind of like situation I am in the last couple of years. So I'm thinking towards escaping the 9 to 5, because there's a lot of stuff that I want to do, and for that I would probably need to belong to myself,
Yeah.
and I would need more free time for that. But I mean, like, I have a family, I have a small kid, I have bills to pay, and
I always think of it as the hamster wheel. Like the sooner I get off this fucking wheel, the better I can like try and actually spend my energy towards meaningful stuff.
It's not, and let me open a caveat. It's not because of my ego. It's not because the boss is stupid. It's not because like I don't know, fuck the corporate world and things like that. It's because finally I know what I want to do.
Yeah.
But I don't have the time for that, and I need to learn new stuff, and I don't have the time for that. And like I have several strategies.
Time is the only thing you can buy.
Time
and it's scalable. Everything else, like you only have this much energy to do everything.
So the thing that makes me go the extra mile and sometimes push beyond or like do the things that I don't like is the dream of one day belonging to myself and do the things that I want to do, and having an ideal day of like waking up and dedicating half a day to business, then go to the gym, then go back, check the tasks that you have put in the morning, and then spend the evening for networking, spend the evening for networking and stuff like that. So there is a milestone which I see. I know exactly what I want to test as a hypothesis. I know the way. It takes time to actually understand what you want from this life. So that's my main motivation.
Yeah, on my end it's a little bit different. I tend to think of it as like going to gym. It's more of a discipline thing, and the sooner you get used to things being tough, then this becomes normal, and you get to use to this normality. Obviously you have a goal in mind. You want to escape the matrix. You want to escape this idea of slavery, modern slavery and whatnot. But at the same time, I don't expect salvation in the future. I don't expect that there will be a day where I'm going to work less, going to think less.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. My concern is that it could end up like in 14 or 16 hours of being anxious or concerned. But at least
it's worth trying. At least it's worth, like, it's much more meaningful than to fucking die at 25 and wait for you to be buried 60 years later.
I'll try to end up or wrap up on one idea. So I think the Homo sapiens needs the corporations, and I think that the Homo sapiens needs the universities, the schools, even religion, all of that beautiful stuff, because otherwise the Homo sapiens is too weak as a species, and it would die of alcoholism, overdoses, syphilis, HIV, and all of that. So I think probably 1 out of 100 has a purpose and knows that purpose. The rest, in my opinion, are in need of something to keep them in order. That's my personal opinion.
Like I said previously, it's really fucking wonderful to talk to you. You got so much to say, and I am only yours. At the same time, I understand you have to run, you have to go somewhere, and like we were supposed to drink wine in the beginning, but you had to run.
We'll catch up.
We'll definitely have a V2, but since we were supposed to drink wine, I didn't make the intro saying this is the drink of choice, because the drink of choice was still water. However, still the tradition of the show is to gift the guest a bottle of wine. So if you can have a pick. I'm
gonna go with Freedom Blend because
that's a really good one.
He was at my wedding, so I always have warm memories about it. So I'm gonna go with Freedom Blend for sure.
Freedom Blend it is. And one last closing question. I ask this everyone. The question is, what would be your final piece of advice for anyone watching, whoever those are, managers within the same field, people who want to get in, random people that just watch, maybe some advice when it comes to life, enjoying life, staying stress-free and whatnot?
Everything has a price in life, be sure of that, and being a loser is tough, having success is tough, so just choose your kind of tough.
Choose your poison. This is really wise and thoughtful. Like I said, I am looking forward for a V2. It's been a pleasure to talk to you, and ladies and gentlemen, this was VUnstaged, the After Hours edition. Keep your mind open and your source unstaged.